Hey warriors, release, freedom, growth. These aren't just words, they're the keys that unlock the door to a life worth living. Right now, as you watch this, you're carrying something heavy. Maybe it's a grudge that's been eating at you for months. Maybe it's regret over a decision you made last year, or maybe it's the fear of what people will think if you finally pursue what makes your heart sing. We live in a world that tells us to hold on tight, hold on to relationships that drain us, hold on to jobs that crush our spirits, hold on to anger because they don't deserve forgiveness, hold on to perfectionism because anything less feels like failure. But here's what nobody tells you. The tighter you grip, the more life slips through your fingers like sand. Every single day, you make a choice. You can wake up carrying yesterday's burdens, or you can choose to set them down. You can spend your energy fighting battles that are already over, or you can redirect that same energy toward building the future you actually want. The Stoics understood something we've forgotten in our modern world, that suffering isn't caused by what happens to us, but by our resistance to what happens to us. Picture a tree branch heavy with snow. The rigid oak branch fights the weight and snaps, but the flexible willow branch bends low, lets the snow slide off, then springs back up, unbroken. The willow doesn't lose its strength by yielding, it preserves it. That's the art of letting go, staying true to your core while being flexible enough to bend with life's storms instead of breaking against them. Letting go is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's not about indifference, but about inner freedom. It's about releasing your death grip on things you can't control so you can pour all your energy into what you can. The willow teaches us that our peace of mind is too precious to be held hostage by circumstances, people, or past mistakes. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop pushing and start flowing, not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to preserve your strength for what truly matters. When you master the art of letting go, something magical happens. The mental space you used to waste on resentment becomes available for creativity. The emotional energy you used to burn on worry becomes fuel for action. The hours you used to spend replaying conversations in your head become time you can invest in building something beautiful. This isn't just philosophy, this is practical psychology. When you're constantly fighting reality, your nervous system stays in fight or flight mode. Your stress hormones stay elevated, your decision-making gets cloudy. But when you learn to accept what is while working toward what could be, your mind clears. Your body relaxes. You start making choices from wisdom instead of wound. So, if you're ready to stop being a prisoner of your past and start being the architect of your future, if you're ready to trade struggle for flow and resistance for resilience, then these 9 transformative principles are for you. Stay with me. These aren't just concepts, they're tools you can use immediately. Hit that like button, drop a comment about what you're ready to let go of, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so we can continue this journey together. Drop this powerful affirmation in the comments and watch your mindset shift. I release and let go. Number 1. Release the illusion of control. The first and most important step to mastering the art of letting go is recognizing a fundamental truth that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. You control far less than you think you do. In fact, you control almost nothing except your own thoughts, actions, and responses. Seneca, the Roman Stoic philosopher and advisor to emperors, observed, "Every new thing excites the mind, but a mind that seeks the truth turns from the new to the eternal. The eternal truth is this: your peace depends not on controlling your circumstances, but on controlling your relationship with your circumstances." Right now, you're probably carrying the weight of a dozen different situations you're trying to control. Maybe you're trying to make someone love you the way you want to be loved. Maybe you're trying to force a career path that keeps hitting walls. Maybe you're trying to control your children's choices, your partner's mood, or your boss's opinion of you. Here's what happens when you try to control the uncontrollable. You create a constant state of internal tension. You're pushing against immovable forces, and that resistance creates suffering. It's like trying to hold back the ocean with your bare hands, exhausting and ultimately futile. The illusion of control is seductive because it makes us feel powerful, but it actually makes us powerless. When you believe you should be able to control outcomes, every unexpected result becomes a personal failure. Every disappointment becomes evidence that you're not good enough, smart enough, or strong enough. But what if you could flip this script completely? What if instead of trying to control outcomes, you focused all that energy on controlling your inputs? What if instead of trying to manage results, you managed your effort, your attitude, and your response? This is where real power lives. You cannot control whether someone hires you, but you can control how well you prepare for the interview. You cannot control whether someone loves you back, but you can control how authentically you express your love. You cannot control whether your business succeeds, but you can control the quality of work you put into it every day. The moment you stop trying to control what's outside your influence, you discover how much influence you actually have over what matters most, your own experience of life. This isn't about becoming passive or accepting mediocrity. This is about channeling your energy where it can actually make a difference. Think about the best athletes in the world. They don't focus on winning, they focus on executing their technique, maintaining their conditioning, and staying mentally prepared. They know that if they control what they can control with excellence, the results take care of themselves. When they lose, they don't waste energy on regret or blame. They analyze what they can learn and apply it to their next performance. This principle applies to every area of your life. In relationships, you cannot control how others treat you, but you can control how you treat others and what behaviors you accept. In your career, you cannot control market conditions or company politics, but you can control your skill development and professional choices. In your health, you cannot control your genetics or accidents, but you can control your daily habits and lifestyle choices. When you truly embrace this principle, something magical happens. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become a creator of your experience. You stop reacting to life and start responding to it. You stop being at the mercy of external events and start finding your power in how you meet those events. The practice of releasing control doesn't happen overnight. It's a daily discipline of catching yourself when you slip into control mode and gently redirecting your attention to what you can actually influence. Every time you notice yourself stressed about something outside your control, ask yourself, what part of this situation can I actually influence? What action can I take right now that aligns with my values? This shift from controlling outcomes to controlling inputs is the foundation of all inner freedom. When you master this principle, you discover that you've been carrying around a burden that was never yours to carry. You realize that you can care deeply about outcomes without being attached to them. You can work hard for what you want without being devastated when things don't go according to plan. If you're ready to stop controlling the uncontrollable, comment this mantra: control what I can, release what I can't. Number 2, embrace impermanence as your teacher. Everything you love will eventually change or disappear. Everything you hate will also pass away. This might sound depressing, but it's actually the most liberating truth you'll ever understand. The Buddhist concept that the Stoics deeply understood is this: impermanence isn't the enemy of happiness. Resistance to impermanence is. Heraclitus, the ancient Greek philosopher who influenced Stoic thinking, said, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man." This wisdom points to a fundamental reality that most people spend their lives fighting. Everything is always changing, and trying to make things permanent creates suffering. Right now, you're clinging to something that's already changing. Maybe it's your youth, your current relationship, your job security, or your health. You're investing enormous energy trying to freeze moments in time, to keep things exactly as they are when they make you happy, and to push away changes that make you uncomfortable. But here's what the Stoics discovered. When you stop fighting impermanence and start working with it, you unlock a completely different way of experiencing life. Instead of living in constant fear of loss, you start appreciating what you have while you have it. Instead of taking things for granted, you become present to their beauty and value. Think about the cherry blossoms that bloom in spring. They're considered incredibly beautiful in Japanese culture, but not despite their brief blooming period, because of it. Their temporary nature makes each moment of their existence precious. The same principle applies to every aspect of your life. Your relationships are more precious because they won't last forever. Your opportunities are more valuable because they have expiration dates. Your health is more important because it's fragile. Your time with loved ones is more meaningful because it's limited. When you truly understand impermanence, you stop wasting time on petty arguments and start investing in what actually matters. The fear of impermanence keeps people trapped in two destructive patterns, desperately clinging to good times and desperately avoiding difficult times. Both patterns cause suffering because they're based on the impossible desire to control the flow of life. When you embrace impermanence as your teacher, you learn to hold everything lightly. You love fully while knowing that love will transform. You work hard while knowing that careers evolve. You enjoy success while knowing that it's temporary. You endure hardship while knowing that it too will pass. This doesn't make you detached or careless. It makes you more present, more grateful, and more resilient. You stop postponing happiness until conditions are perfect because you understand that conditions are always changing. You stop avoiding challenges because you know they're temporary teachers, bringing you exactly what you need to grow. The practice of embracing impermanence starts with small daily observations. Notice how your emotions change throughout the day. Notice how your thoughts come and go like clouds in the sky. Notice how your body feels different from moment to moment. Notice how conversations flow and shift. Notice how the light changes as the day progresses. When you start paying attention to the constant flow of change in small things, you build the muscle to handle bigger changes with grace. You realize that change isn't something that happens to you occasionally. It's the very fabric of existence, and you're part of that flow. This understanding transforms how you handle loss and disappointment. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you start asking, "What is this change teaching me? How can I flow with this transition instead of fighting it? What new possibilities is this ending creating space for?" The most successful and peaceful people aren't those who avoid change. They're those who dance with it. They've learned to surf the waves of impermanence instead of being knocked down by them. They understand that endings are also beginnings, that loss creates space for new growth, that every sunset makes room for a new sunrise. When someone you love dies, the impermanence of that relationship makes every moment you shared more precious, not less. When a career ends, the temporary nature of that chapter makes room for new adventures. When your body ages, the changing nature of your physical form teaches you to find identity in something deeper and more enduring. Impermanence isn't something to overcome. It's something to embrace as the natural rhythm of existence. When you stop fighting the flow and start flowing with the fight, you discover a kind of peace that doesn't depend on circumstances staying the same. You find a joy that doesn't require permanence and a love that grows stronger through change, not despite it. Number 3, transform your relationship with failure and rejection. Here's a truth that will change everything. Failure and rejection aren't happening to you, they're happening for you. Every no you receive, every setback you experience, every plan that falls apart is actually life's way of redirecting you towards something better or teaching you something essential. Thomas Edison, whose inventions transformed the modern world, once said, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. This wasn't positive thinking or denial. This was a fundamental reframe of what failure actually means. Edison understood that failure is feedback, not a verdict on your worth. Most people have a toxic relationship with failure. They see it as evidence that they're not good enough, smart enough, or deserving enough. They take rejection personally, as if someone saying no to their request is saying no to their entire existence. This relationship with failure keeps them playing small, avoiding risks and missing opportunities. But what if you could completely flip this script? What if you could see failure as information, rejection as redirection, and setbacks as setups for comebacks? What if you could understand that the universe isn't punishing you, it's teaching you? The Stoics had a powerful concept called the obstacle is the way. This means that whatever is blocking your path isn't separate from your path. It is your path. The challenge you're facing isn't preventing your growth. It's causing your growth. The failure you're experiencing isn't proof that you should quit. It's proof that you're pushing your limits and expanding your capabilities. Think about your muscles. They only grow when they face resistance they can't easily handle. The struggle creates the strength. The same principle applies to every area of your life. Your character grows through moral challenges. Your skills develop through difficult projects. Your resilience builds through surviving setbacks. When you get rejected for a job, that rejection might be protecting you from a toxic work environment and pointing you toward a better opportunity. When a relationship ends, that ending might be freeing you from a connection that was limiting your growth. When a business venture fails, that failure might be teaching you lessons that will make your next venture successful. The key is learning to separate your actions from your identity. You are not your failures. You are not your rejections. You are not your mistakes. You are the person who learns from those experiences and uses them to become stronger, wiser, and more resilient. This doesn't mean you should seek out failure or be careless with your efforts. It means you should pursue excellence without being paralyzed by the fear of falling short. It means you should take intelligent risks without being devastated when some of them don't pay off. The most successful people in any field aren't those who never fail. They're those who fail faster, learn quicker, and bounce back stronger. They understand that failure is the price of admission to any worthwhile endeavor. They know that rejection is often just a numbers game, and persistence combined with learning beats talent without resilience. When you transform your relationship with failure, you transform your relationship with risk. Instead of avoiding challenges that might lead to disappointment, you start seeking challenges that will lead to growth. Instead of playing it safe and staying stuck, you start playing to win and accepting that losing is part of the game. This shift requires practice and self-compassion. When you do fail or face rejection, resist the urge to beat yourself up or take it as confirmation of your fears. Instead, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can this experience make me stronger? What would I do differently next time? What opportunity might this disappointment be creating space for? The practice of reframing failure starts with your internal dialogue. Instead of saying, I failed, say, I learned. Instead of saying, they rejected me, say, that wasn't the right fit. Instead of saying, nothing ever works out for me, say, I'm building resilience and getting closer to what will work. Remember that every person you admire has a collection of failures and rejections behind their success. The difference between those who achieve their dreams and those who don't isn't the absence of failure. It's the response to failure. Winners see failure as education. Losers see it as evidence. Winners use rejection as redirection. Losers use it as confirmation that they should quit. Your current failure is not your final destination. It's a stepping stone to your next level of growth. Your recent rejection is not a reflection of your worth. It's a redirection towards something better aligned with your path. Trust the process, learn from the feedback, and keep moving forward. Number 4. The art of emotional detachment without becoming cold. There's a massive difference between being emotionally detached and being emotionally unavailable. One creates freedom and peace, the other creates isolation and emptiness. The Stoics mastered the art of feeling deeply while not being controlled by their feelings, and this skill can transform every relationship and situation in your life. The Buddha taught, "Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional." This profound wisdom points to the space between what happens to you and how you respond to what happens to you. In that space lies your power to choose your emotional state regardless of your circumstances. Most people are emotional slaves. They wake up happy or sad depending on their circumstances. They're confident when things go well and defeated when things go poorly. They're loving when others treat them well and resentful when others disappoint them. Their emotional state is completely dependent on external conditions, which means they have no real emotional freedom. But emotional detachment doesn't mean becoming a robot. It doesn't mean suppressing your feelings or pretending you don't care about anything. True emotional detachment means experiencing your emotions fully without being controlled by them. It means feeling your anger without acting from anger. It means experiencing your sadness without drowning in sadness. It means enjoying your happiness without being addicted to happiness. Think of emotions like weather. You don't try to control the weather, but you do choose how to dress for it. You don't take rain personally, but you do carry an umbrella. You enjoy sunny days without demanding that every day be sunny. Emotions are the same way. They're natural phenomena that come and go, and your job is to experience them skillfully, not control them. The key to emotional detachment is understanding that you are not your emotions. You are the observer of your emotions. When you're angry, there's a part of you that notices the anger. When you're sad, there's a part of you that's aware of the sadness. That observing part, your consciousness, is always calm, always present, always free. This observer self is where your real power lives. From this place, you can feel your emotions without being hijacked by them. You can acknowledge your anger without saying things you'll regret. You can experience your fear without being paralyzed by it. You can feel your love without becoming possessive or needy. The practice of emotional detachment starts with creating space between stimulus and response. When something triggers an emotional reaction, instead of immediately acting on that emotion, pause. Take a breath. Notice what you're feeling. Ask yourself, what is this emotion trying to tell me? What would be the wisest response from this situation? This doesn't mean you become emotionally cold or unavailable. In fact, emotional detachment makes you more emotionally available because you're not constantly swept away by your own emotional storms. You can be present for others' emotions without being overwhelmed by them. You can offer support without taking on others' problems as your own. In relationships, emotional detachment allows you to love without attachment, which is the highest form of love. You can care deeply about someone's well-being without trying to control their choices. You can feel hurt when someone disappoints you without making them responsible for your emotional state. You can express your needs without demanding that others meet them. This skill is especially crucial in conflict situations. When someone is angry with you, emotional detachment allows you to hear their concerns without becoming defensive. When someone criticizes you, you can consider whether their feedback is useful without taking it as an attack on your worth. When someone treats you poorly, you can maintain your boundaries without being consumed by resentment. The most emotionally mature people aren't those who never feel difficult emotions. They're those who feel all emotions without being controlled by any emotion. They understand that emotions are temporary visitors, not permanent residents. They welcome emotions as sources of information and energy without letting emotions make their decisions for them. This practice requires self-compassion and patience. You'll slip back into emotional reactivity many times as you develop this skill. That's normal and expected. The goal isn't perfection, it's progress. Each time you catch yourself being controlled by an emotion and gently return to the observer position, you're strengthening your emotional freedom. When you master emotional detachment, you discover that you can be passionate without being desperate, caring without being controlling, and loving without being needy. You realize that your peace doesn't depend on others treating you well, your confidence doesn't depend on external validation, and your happiness doesn't depend on circumstances being exactly as you want them. This is true emotional freedom, the ability to choose your response to any situation, to feel deeply without drowning, and to love fully without losing yourself. It's the foundation of all healthy relationships and the cornerstone of inner peace. Master your emotions by claiming this truth in the comments. I feel deeply. React wisely. Number 5. Release expectations and embrace what is. Your expectations are the source of most of your suffering. Every time you feel disappointed, frustrated, or angry, look closely, and you'll find an unmet expectation underneath that emotion. The gap between what you expect and what actually happens creates most of the pain in your life, but it doesn't have to. Lao Tzu, the ancient Chinese philosopher whose wisdom influenced Stoic thought, wrote, "If you correct your mind, the rest of your life will fall into place." The correction he's talking about is the shift from expecting life to meet your demands to accepting life as it unfolds while still working toward your goals. Right now, you have expectations about everything. You expect people to behave a certain way. You expect your efforts to produce specific results. You expect fairness, consistency, and logic from a world that often provides chaos, surprise, and mystery. These expectations set you up for constant disappointment because reality rarely matches our mental pictures of how things should be. But here's what most people misunderstand about releasing expectations. It doesn't mean becoming passive or stopping caring about outcomes. It means holding your preferences lightly while remaining open to what actually emerges. It means working toward what you want while being at peace with whatever happens. The difference between expectations and preferences is crucial. A preference is something you'd like to happen, but you're okay if it doesn't. An expectation is something you believe should happen, and you suffer when it doesn't. Preferences create motivation, expectations create suffering. When you expect people to always be reasonable, you suffer every time someone acts irrationally. When you expect your hard work to always be recognized and rewarded, you suffer every time you're overlooked. When you expect life to be fair, you suffer every time you encounter injustice. But when you prefer these things without expecting them, you can work toward them without being devastated when they don't occur. The practice of releasing expectations starts with recognizing how many unconscious expectations you carry. You expect traffic to move smoothly, technology to work perfectly, people to keep their promises, and your body to feel good all the time. You expect your family to understand you, your friends to always be available, and your work to be fulfilling. Most of these expectations operate below conscious awareness, but they create a constant undercurrent of tension. When you start noticing these expectations, you can begin the process of transforming them into preferences. Instead of expecting your commute to be quick, prefer it while being prepared for delays. Instead of expecting people to always be on time, prefer punctuality while planning for the possibility that others might be late. This shift doesn't make you pessimistic or cynical. It makes you realistic and resilient. You still hope for the best, but you're prepared for anything. You still work toward positive outcomes, but you're not attached to specific results. You still care about people, but you don't demand that they behave according to your wishes. Releasing expectations is especially important in relationships. When you expect others to love you the way you want to be loved, communicate the way you want to be spoken to, and support you the way you want to be supported, you set up both yourself and them for failure. People love, communicate, and support others based on their own personality, experiences, and capacity, not based on your expectations. When you release these relationship expectations while maintaining healthy boundaries, something beautiful happens. You start appreciating people for who they are, rather than resenting them for who they're not. You start receiving their love in the language they speak, rather than demanding they learn your language. You start finding joy in what they do offer, rather than focusing on what they don't. The same principle applies to your goals and ambitions. When you expect specific timelines, specific outcomes, or specific recognition for your efforts, you create unnecessary pressure and disappointment. But when you prefer these things while remaining open to alternative paths and unexpected opportunities, you can pursue your dreams with passion while maintaining peace. This doesn't mean lowering your standards or accepting mediocrity. It means holding your standards as guides for your effort while releasing attachment to specific outcomes. It means doing excellent work because excellence is its own reward, not because you expect excellence to be rewarded in particular ways. The freedom that comes from releasing expectations is profound. You stop being disappointed by reality and start being curious about it. You stop fighting what is and start working skillfully with what is. You stop demanding that life conform to your plans and start discovering the opportunities hidden in life's surprises. When you embrace what is while working toward what could be, you find a kind of peace that doesn't depend on circumstances and a kind of joy that doesn't require everything to go your way. You discover that reality, just as it is, contains everything you need to grow, contribute, and find meaning. Number 6, stop seeking validation and start validating yourself. The moment you stop needing others to approve of your choices is the moment you become truly free. Most people are prisoners of other people's opinions, constantly adjusting their behavior, choices, and even their dreams based on what others might think. This addiction to external validation is one of the most exhausting ways to live, and it keeps you from ever knowing who you really are. Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote, "To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment." This isn't just poetic language. This is a blueprint for authentic living. When you stop seeking validation from others and start validating yourself, you discover a kind of confidence that can't be shaken by criticism and doesn't need praise to survive. Right now, you're probably making dozens of decisions based on what others might think. You're choosing clothes that will impress people, career paths that will gain approval, relationships that look good from the outside, and opinions that won't rock the boat. You're living your life as if everyone else is the judge and you're the contestant hoping to win their approval. But here's the truth that will set you free. Most people are too busy worrying about what others think of them to spend much time thinking about you. The audience you're performing for is largely imaginary. The approval you're seeking is often from people whose opinions don't actually matter to your well-being or success. The addiction to validation starts early and runs deep. As children, we learn that love and approval come when we behave in ways that please others. We discover that conformity brings acceptance and authenticity sometimes brings rejection. So, we develop a validation-seeking system that prioritizes others' comfort over our own truth. But external validation is like a drug. You need more and more of it to feel good, and the high never lasts. No amount of praise can fill the void of self-doubt. No amount of approval can substitute for self-respect. No amount of external recognition can replace the peace that comes from knowing you're living according to your own values. The shift from external validation to self-validation isn't about becoming arrogant or dismissive of feedback. It's about becoming your own primary source of approval while remaining open to input from others. It's about making decisions based on your values rather than others' expectations. It's about defining success on your own terms rather than society's terms. Self-validation starts with developing a clear sense of your own values and principles. When you know what matters to you, really matters, not what you think should matter, you have an internal compass that guides your decisions. You can ask yourself, does this choice align with my values? Does this path honor who I'm becoming? Does this decision come from fear of judgment or from authentic desire? The practice of self-validation requires courage because it means you'll sometimes disappoint people. When you stop automatically saying yes to requests that don't serve you, some people will be unhappy. When you start expressing opinions that reflect your actual thoughts rather than what you think others want to hear, some people will disagree. When you make choices that prioritize your well-being over others' comfort, some people will call you selfish. This is the price of authenticity, and it's worth paying. The people who truly belong in your life will respect your authenticity, even when they don't always agree with your choices. The relationships that require you to betray yourself to maintain them aren't healthy relationships. They're prisons disguised as connections. Self-validation also means becoming your own best friend rather than your harshest critic. Instead of waiting for others to celebrate your successes, you learn to acknowledge your progress. Instead of depending on others to comfort you during failures, you learn to speak to yourself with compassion. Instead of needing others to believe in your dreams, you become your own biggest supporter. When you master self-validation, you discover that you can receive feedback without being devastated by criticism and accept praise without becoming addicted to it. You can make unpopular decisions with confidence and popular decisions without smugness. You can be alone without feeling lonely and be in groups without losing yourself. This freedom allows you to show up authentically in all your relationships. When you're not desperately seeking approval, you can be genuinely interested in others rather than constantly worried about their opinion of you. When you're not performing for validation, you can be present for connection. When you're not afraid of judgment, you can take risks that lead to growth and contribution. The most magnetic people aren't those who desperately seek approval. They're those who are comfortable in their own skin. They attract others not because they're trying to impress, but because their authenticity gives others permission to be authentic too. They create space for real connection because they're not hiding behind a mask of who they think they should be. Stop waiting for the world to validate your worth. You are the only person qualified to do that job. Your value doesn't depend on others' recognition. Your dreams don't require others' permission, and your happiness doesn't need others' approval. When you become your own source of validation, you become unstoppable. Number 7, practice the art of grateful surrender. Surrender isn't giving up, it's giving over. There's a profound difference between the two, and understanding this difference will transform how you handle every challenge, disappointment, and uncertainty in your life. Grateful surrender is the practice of releasing your grip on how things should unfold, while maintaining deep appreciation for what is unfolding. Rumi, the 13th century Persian poet whose mystical insights align beautifully with Stoic wisdom, wrote, "Try not to resist the changes that come your way. Instead, let life live through you. And do not worry that your life is turning upside down. How do you know that the side you are used to is better than the one to come?" This is the essence of grateful surrender, trusting life's process even when you can't see the destination. Most people confuse surrender with defeat, but they're opposites. Defeat happens when you stop trying because you believe you're powerless. Surrender happens when you keep acting from wisdom while releasing attachment to specific outcomes because you trust that life is working through you, not against you. Right now, you're probably wrestling with situations that require surrender. Maybe you're fighting a health diagnosis, struggling against financial difficulties, or trying to force a relationship that isn't working. Maybe you're pushing against career setbacks, family dynamics, or personal limitations. The energy you're spending on resistance could be channeled into response, but first, you need to let go of how you think things should be. Grateful surrender begins with the radical acceptance that this moment, exactly as it is, contains everything you need for your next level of growth. This doesn't mean you like everything about your current situation. It means you stop fighting reality long enough to work skillfully with reality. The grateful part of grateful surrender is crucial. It's easy to surrender when you're bitter, resentful, or defeated. But that kind of surrender creates victim consciousness and passive acceptance. Grateful surrender means finding something to appreciate even in difficult circumstances, recognizing that challenges often carry gifts that comfort never could. When you're grateful for your struggles as well as your blessings, you transform your relationship with difficulty. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you start asking, "What is this teaching me? How is this growing me? What strength is this developing in me that I'll need for my future?" This practice doesn't mean becoming passive or stopping your efforts to improve your situation. Grateful surrender is active, not passive. You continue taking inspired action while releasing desperate attachment to specific timelines and outcomes. You work with life's flow instead of against it, like a skilled sailor who uses the wind rather than fighting it. The practice of grateful surrender is especially powerful during transitions and uncertainty. When you don't know what's coming next, instead of panicking about the unknown, you can trust that uncertainty often precedes breakthrough. When old patterns are breaking down, instead of trying to hold them together, you can appreciate that something new is trying to emerge. In relationships, grateful surrender means releasing your need to control how others love you, support you, or understand you. You can express your needs and boundaries clearly while surrendering attachment to whether others meet those needs in the ways you prefer. You can love people fully while surrendering the need for them to love you back in specific ways. In your career and creative pursuits, grateful surrender means doing your best work while releasing attachment to how that work is received or rewarded. You can pursue your goals passionately while surrendering the timeline, the path, and even the specific outcomes. You trust that your sincere efforts will lead to whatever serves your highest good, even if it looks different than you imagined. This practice requires developing faith, not necessarily religious faith, but faith in life's intelligence. Faith that your experiences, even the difficult ones, are perfectly designed for your growth. Faith that what appears to be setbacks might be setups for something better. Faith that life is conspiring for your benefit, not against it. Grateful surrender also means surrendering the need to understand everything. You don't need to know why certain things happen, how everything will work out, or when your situation will improve. You only need to trust that you have everything you need to handle whatever comes, and that your job is to respond wisely rather than control perfectly. When you master grateful surrender, you discover a kind of peace that doesn't depend on circumstances, and a kind of strength that grows through challenges rather than despite them. You realize that life is not something that happens to you. It's something that happens through you, and your job is to be the best possible channel for whatever wants to emerge. The most resilient and successful people aren't those who control everything. They're those who surrender gracefully while acting wisely. They trust the process while engaging fully with the process. They let go of outcomes while committing fully to excellence in their actions. Number 8. Let go of who you used to be to become who you're meant to be. The person you were yesterday is not the person you have to be today. One of the most limiting beliefs you can hold is that you are fixed, unchangeable, defined forever by your past choices, mistakes, or circumstances. The truth is, you are constantly becoming, constantly evolving, constantly capable of transformation, but only if you're willing to let go of old versions of yourself. Carl Jung, the pioneering psychologist whose insights bridge ancient wisdom and modern understanding, observed, "The privilege of a lifetime is being who you are." But here's what most people miss. Being who you are doesn't mean staying who you've always been. It means having the courage to keep evolving into your most authentic and capable self. Right now, you're probably carrying identities that no longer serve you. Maybe you still see yourself as the shy person you were in high school, the failure you were after a major setback, or the victim you became after a difficult experience. Maybe you're holding on to being the people pleaser, the perfectionist, or the person who always puts others first, even when it destroys your own well-being. These old identities feel comfortable because they're familiar, but comfort is often the enemy of growth. When you cling to outdated versions of yourself, you limit your potential and rob yourself of the opportunity to discover what you're truly capable of becoming. The process of letting go of who you used to be isn't about rejecting your past or pretending your experiences didn't happen. It's about refusing to let your past define your future. It's about taking the wisdom and strength you gained from your experiences while releasing the limitations and stories that keep you stuck. Every challenge you've overcome has built strength you didn't know you had. Every mistake you've made has provided wisdom you wouldn't have gained otherwise. Every difficult experience has developed resilience that serves you now. You can keep these gifts while releasing the identity of being someone who is defined by struggle, limitation, or past failures. This transformation requires what psychologists call identity flexibility, the ability to update your self-concept based on new evidence of who you're becoming. When you accomplish something you never thought possible, instead of dismissing it as luck or a fluke, you update your identity to include being someone capable of that achievement. When you handle a situation with grace that would have destroyed you before, you recognize that you've grown into someone stronger and wiser. The most successful transformations happen when you start acting like the person you want to become before you feel like that person. If you want to become confident, you start taking actions that confident people take, even when you feel uncertain. If you want to become disciplined, you start creating structure in your life, even when you feel chaotic. If you want to become loving, you start expressing love, even when you feel guarded. This isn't fake it till you make it thinking. This is understanding that identity follows action more than action follows identity. You don't become a runner because you identify as athletic. You identify as athletic because you consistently run. You don't become successful because you feel worthy. You feel worthy because you consistently take actions that create success. Letting go of old identities also means releasing the need to be consistent with who you've always been. You don't have to keep the same opinions, the same preferences, the same fears, or the same limitations just because you've always had them. Growth requires inconsistency with your past self. Evolution requires betraying who you used to be in service of who you're becoming. This process can feel scary because your old identity, even if it's limiting, provides a sense of security. You know how to be that person, even if being that person creates suffering. But consider this: the caterpillar must completely dissolve before it becomes a butterfly. The transformation requires releasing what was to make space for what's possible. The practice of identity evolution starts with paying attention to the stories you tell about yourself. Notice when you say things like, "I'm not good with money," "I'm not a morning person," or "I'm just not the type of person who." These statements aren't facts about reality. They're beliefs that create reality. When you change these stories, you change your life. Start experimenting with new versions of yourself. Try on new behaviors, new responses, new ways of thinking. See what fits, what feels authentic, what serves your highest good. You might discover that you're funnier than you thought, stronger than you imagined, more capable than you believed, more loving than you knew. The person listening these words right now has unlimited potential for growth, change, and transformation. You are not condemned to repeat the patterns of your past. You are not limited by the mistakes you've made or the circumstances you've experienced. You are a constantly evolving being with the power to recreate yourself in each moment. Let go of who you used to be, with gratitude for the lessons learned and the strength gained. Embrace who you're becoming with excitement for the possibilities ahead. Your best self isn't behind you. It's emerging through you right now. Number 9. Trust the process. Even when you can't see the destination, the most profound transformations happen in darkness, invisibility, and uncertainty. Seeds grow underground before they break through soil. Butterflies transform in the darkness of their cocoons. Your greatest breakthroughs often happen during periods when you can't see progress and don't know what's coming next. Learning to trust the process when you can't see the destination is the final mastery of letting go. Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist who found meaning in the most meaningless suffering, wrote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." This wisdom points to the deepest truth about trust. Sometimes the process you need to trust isn't about changing your circumstances, but about changing yourself through your circumstances. Right now, you're probably in the middle of processes you can't fully understand. Maybe you're healing from trauma and can't see when you'll feel whole again. Maybe you're building a business and can't see when success will come. Maybe you're developing a skill and can't see when mastery will emerge. Maybe you're growing spiritually and can't see when peace will arrive. The desire to see the end of the journey before you complete it is natural, but it's also limiting. When you demand to know how everything will work out before you take the next step, you miss the growth that happens in the unknown. When you need guarantees before you commit to the process, you never fully commit to the process. Trust isn't belief that everything will work out exactly as you want. Trust is confidence that you can handle whatever emerges, learn from whatever happens, and find meaning in whatever unfolds. Trust is knowing that the process is working on you, even when you can't see how you're working on the process. Every process has seasons. Spring brings new growth and possibility, but it also brings uncertainty about what will actually bloom. Summer brings progress and activity, but it also brings the hard work of cultivation. Fall brings harvest and results, but it also brings the letting go of what's ending. Winter brings rest and dormancy, but it also brings the deep preparation for the next cycle of growth. Most people try to skip the difficult seasons and live permanently in spring and summer. They want constant growth, visible progress, and immediate results. But nature doesn't work that way, and neither does personal transformation. Every process requires periods of invisible development, apparent setbacks, and mysterious transitions. The practice of trusting the process starts with accepting that you don't need to understand everything that's happening to you. You don't need to know why certain challenges appeared in your life, when your current struggles will end, or how your efforts will ultimately pay off. You only need to show up consistently with integrity and openness to whatever wants to emerge. This doesn't mean becoming passive or abandoning your goals. Trusting the process means taking inspired action while releasing attachment to timelines and specific outcomes. It means doing your part with excellence while allowing life to do its part with wisdom you might not yet understand. When you're in the middle of a difficult process, recovery, education, relationship building, creative projects, there are always moments when you want to quit because you can't see progress. This is exactly when trust becomes most important and most powerful. The breakthrough you're seeking might be one step beyond the point where you want to give up. The processes that transform you most deeply are often the ones that make the least sense while they're happening. The job loss that leads to your dream career, the heartbreak that opens your capacity for deeper love, the illness that teaches you what really matters, the failure that develops the resilience you need for future success. Trusting the process also means trusting your intuition about what steps to take next, even when those steps don't make logical sense. Sometimes the process requires you to slow down when everyone else is speeding up. Sometimes it requires you to change direction when you were making progress on your original path. Sometimes it requires you to go backward before you can go forward. The most successful and peaceful people aren't those who can predict the future. They're those who can trust the present. They understand that every moment contains exactly what they need for their next level of growth, even when that growth looks like challenge, confusion, or delay. When you truly trust the process, you stop trying to force outcomes and start flowing with opportunities. You stop fighting the timeline and start working with the rhythm. You stop demanding to know the ending and start appreciating the journey. You discover that the destination was never separate from the path. The path is the destination. Your life is unfolding exactly as it needs to unfold for you to become who you're meant to become. Trust that. Trust the timing. Trust the challenges. Trust the growth. Trust the mystery. The process knows what it's doing, even when you don't. You now have 9 powerful principles that can transform your relationship with letting go. But listening about these concepts and living them are 2 different things. The real transformation happens when you start applying these insights to your daily life. 1 situation at a time, 1 choice at a time, 1 breath at a time. Remember, mastering the art of letting go isn't about becoming perfect at release. It's about becoming skillful at recognizing when you're holding too tightly and gently loosening your grip. It's about catching yourself when you slip back into old patterns of control and resistance, and compassionately returning to flow and acceptance. The Stoic path isn't easy, but it's simple. Focus on what you can control, accept what you cannot control, and find wisdom to know the difference. Release the illusion of permanence while fully embracing the present moment. Transform your relationship with failure, expectations, and other people's opinions. Practice emotional detachment without becoming emotionally unavailable. Trust the process even when you cannot see the destination. Each principle we've explored builds on the others, creating a comprehensive approach to inner freedom. You don't need to master all 9 at once. Start with the one that resonates most deeply with you today. Practice it until it becomes natural, then add another layer to your understanding. Your journey of letting go is also a journey of stepping into your power. When you release what doesn't serve you, you create space for what does. When you stop fighting reality, you can start working skillfully with reality. When you let go of who you used to be, you make room for who you're becoming. The freedom you're seeking isn't somewhere in the future. It's available right now, in this moment, through the simple act of releasing what you cannot control and embracing what you can. Take a deep breath, let it go, and step into the peace that has been waiting for you all along. Seal your transformation by dropping this final affirmation: letting go equals leveling up. If this message has served you, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear these words, leave a comment about which principle resonated most with you, and subscribe to the channel for more content that helps you build inner strength and freedom. Your journey of letting go starts now.